Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of Video Clips, which is brought to you by Wellness Forum Health and the Wellness Forum Institute for Health Studies. I have a couple of really important announcements. We'll start with free stuff. Everybody loves free stuff, right? I'm offering a free mastery course for health professionals June 11th, 12th, and 13th from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll record it in case you can't join us. 9 hours of free education designed to help you start or grow a healthcare practice of your dreams. I'm teaching it. We've been in business for a long time and we're crazy successful at what we do. And we know why. We can help you understand why and put into practice the principles that we have used at Wellness Forum to build our own company. I'll say, I think the healthcare market is changing a lot. I know you know that too. So some people are going to be left behind and some people are going to thrive. And I think you want to be in the thriving category. So join me for this program and I'll show you how. Now, we want health professionals to be involved or people who are strongly thinking of entering the healthcare professionals space. So we're asking you to apply. And the other reason I want you to apply, and I'll send you an application if you want to do this, is because I want your feedback on what you want me to cover. I have some things in mind that I think you need to know, but I also have the flexibility of morphing the curriculum to what you want to talk about as well. So I want that feedback. I did that with the free boot camp in March. I did that with the Food Over Medicine retreat that we had in April, and I want to do that with this as well. So my email address is pampopper@msn.com. The next thing I want to announce is over the weekend, this was a last minute decision for me, but I'm going to tell you now. Over the weekend, I got a ton of emails from people asking about vitamin D and skin cancer and sun. I mean, the weather's getting better, thank God. I was outside working in my yard. I laid in the sun a little bit. So people are asking about sun exposure and sunscreen and all kinds of things related to it. So I scheduled a workshop for June 10th at 8 p.m. Eastern. It's called The Great Skin Cancer Hoax. It's free for our annual pass members. It's $99 for non-members and $69 for other members. If you're not an annual pass member, but you're a member of Wellness Forum, it's $69. I'm going to spend 2.5 hours or so going through everything from the types of skin cancer, the real risk factors, sunlight, sunscreen, vitamin D is related to it, all that stuff, right? So just decided that there seemed to be a whole lot of interest in it. So I just decided to schedule a workshop about it. So if you want information about that or the upcoming healthcare bootcamp, pampopper@msn.com. All right, since I started this series on supplements, getting lots of questions about supplements, so I'm going to talk some more about it. This week for sure, I'll figure out if I want to do it next week or not. But I want to talk about two things today: why doctors promote supplements, and then the confusion about do they actually make things better and where that comes from. So anyway, I'll start with why doctors promote supplements. And people think that that's the sign of a doctor they should visit. And I don't think so. But well, I'll just tell you what I think. In searching for better alternatives to almost anything, I think there's a tendency to look for something different but familiar. We all are creatures of habit and we all operate within paradigms, right? So a lot of medical care operates in a paradigm. And this is the case with supplements. They fit in the existing medical model, which focuses on treating symptoms with drugs and procedures and surgery. Now, symptom suppression with drugs is particularly pervasive, as you know. So, have a headache, take an aspirin, or even something more powerful. Have an infection, take an antibiotic. Have high blood pressure, take an ACE inhibitor. Drugs relieve symptoms, and they can also improve biomarkers like plasma cholesterol and fasting glucose levels, and they do it quickly, which is part of their appeal. But the problem with drugs, and I know you guys understand this, those of you who listen to me, is they don't address the underlying cause of the symptoms or disease, which in most cases it is diet and lifestyle habits. And there are no pills to fix that, and supplements don't fix it either. Part of the problem is that both health professionals is feeling better with getting better. For example, Many people felt better while taking Vioxx for arthritis pain, but there was a little problem with it. Reports estimate that at least 58,000 people, and potentially tens of thousands more, died as a result of taking it. Well, glucosamine is a dietary supplement. It's effective in relieving pain from arthritis in some people. And it's true that glucosamine is less harmful than drugs used to treat pain, but the person taking glucosamine still has arthritis and the condition continues to progress. So, as this example illustrates, supplementation is often an ineffective but potentially less harmful way to address a health issue. And I've been saying for years, the goal of healthcare isn't to find a way to hurt people less, it's to find a way to help people more, to get them restored to health. So we have to make sure that we're clear on the objective that we're trying to accomplish. Another issue is that research focuses on supplements instead of whole foods. And the reason is because double blind placebo controlled studies, in which even the researchers don't know who's getting the drug or supplement, well, that's considered the gold standard in research. It's preferred because it offers the most potential, according to some experts, for complete objectivity. Well, there's something to be said for that. But the problem is obviously people know what they're eating, so do their observers. Making a double blind placebo controlled study involving diets impossible to do. And of course, then you've got so many variations on different diets. Keto means different things to different people, and so does plant-based eating or carnivore. So it's impossible to standardize that way. And then you can only confine people. I mean, we could lock people up for a few years and see how they fare on various diets, but there's an impractical aspect of that, of course. The other issue that I think kind of creeps into healthcare is the bias that many health professionals have against showing people how to change their entire dietary pattern. Dietary change in the way that we've always taught it is believed to be difficult and expensive, and many people assume that folks just won't do it. And even if they do it, they won't stick with it. We proved that it's not more expensive to eat this way. In fact, it's less expensive. I've done this with people who were using SNAP money and WIC money, and they've been able to adopt the diet that we recommend, and people will stick with it if shown how, and if they're not given ridiculous restrictions. I've been arguing against the eating within a window and this 12 special foods you have to eat at lunch and all the crazy rules. I won't go into it here, but there's one guy who has a real popular website. And one of my associates went through it and found 36 things you're supposed to do every day. I don't have time to do them, and I'm pretty dedicated to health, so that's counterproductive. But when done in a common sense way, people are willing to change. And our experience in working with over 100,000 people in dozens of different countries is that people will change and stick with it if you show them practical ways to do it and what they will get out of it. And research has even shown that once people make these changes, they're quite satisfied with their new diets and remain compliant. Very interesting study was done with patients of Dean Ornish when he first started his program compared to patients who were just placed on the American Heart Association diet. And Ornish's program wasn't just diet change. I don't know if you're aware of that, but he had people going to stress reduction groups and exercise and smoking cessation. It was a very complex program. It was excellent. See, it's still offered at many hospitals. And so you'd think with all that going on, people would be happier with the American Heart Association diet that was pretty liberal, allowed for copious amounts of animal food and fat. It was the opposite. People were very happy with the Ornish program. Many of them said, and I'm paraphrasing from the follow-up studies, but they said, it was hard to get used to. I didn't know how to cook the food, but once I got the hang of it, we really enjoy it. And on the other hand, the Heart Association dieters were saying, oh, I just got tired of chicken and fish and chicken and fish. And, so this whole idea that people won't change or stick with it is really false. And I wish people wouldn't spread that bad information. So the last thing I'll cover in this particular video is what about studies showing that supplements work? Well, promoters of vitamins and nutrients, isolated nutrient supplements often reference studies that appear to back their claims, but in what way, how do we define work? Okay. So, surrogate markers or laboratory measurements are symptoms that are often mistaken for actual disease. So, for example, high plasma cholesterol levels aren't a disease, but they're markers for coronary artery disease. Pain is a symptom of conditions such as damage or excessive pressure on a joint like the knee. So, if you're 100 pounds overweight, you're likely to have pain. But the problem is the pain is not the disease; it's the excess weight. Much of medical treatment, both conventional and alternative, involves addressing surrogate markers instead of underlying conditions. The problem is that artificially manipulating symptoms and surrogate markers usually doesn't result in what patients really want, which is better long term health outcomes. They want to live their lifespan with a very high quality of life. That should be the objective of healthcare. So, for example, to show you the difference here, statin drugs do lower cholesterol, but they don't reduce the risk of heart attack, stroke, or death by very much when used for primary prevention. Chemotherapy is often effective in shrinking tumors in the short term, but it doesn't extend the lives of most patients significantly. Supplements can also be used to treat markers of disease instead of the disease itself in the same way. High dose niacin has been shown to reduce plasma cholesterol levels. Hawthorn berry sometimes reduces blood pressure for some, and high dose cinnamon can lower blood glucose levels. But there's no evidence that changing these biomarkers with supplements instead of drugs changes long term outcomes either. In other words, the argument would still be it hurts you less than the drugs that would normally be prescribed. One study showed that taking vitamin B supplements lowered homocysteine levels better than placebo. But after 7 years of follow up, there were no differences in the number of cardiovascular events between the group taking B vitamins and the group taking placebo. This study and others like it have been conducted in response to B vitamins lowering homocysteine levels. They do. Higher homocysteine levels are correlated with increased risk of cardiovascular disease. They are. Therefore, it just stands to reason that you lower homocysteine levels through supplementation, like supplements like B vitamins, should reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease. It doesn't. The problem is that the studies don't bear out that hypothesis. So it goes to something else I've been saying for a long time. There's a big difference between sound reasoning and sound evidence, and we need sound evidence before we start messing around with other people's health, right? So sound reasoning is the logic behind the vitamin D hoax, and that's why the vitamin D supplementation isn't helping anybody, right? So the problem we have, I think, is so many problems we have is probably a better way to put it. Training is seriously lacking in all fields of medicine. We've got to start talking about health and long-term outcomes instead of manipulating markers and relieving discomfort and calling it a day. Patients don't know the right questions to ask about their treatment. In other words, the patient objective, and it's all unspoken, but the patient shows up in somebody's office, and what they're thinking in the back of their mind is not, I sure want good lab results. They want to live a long, very long life, full lifespan with high quality of life and die in their own home. I mean, that's what I want. That's probably what you want too. But they're not interested in just pretty blood work or temporary relief of pain. But this disconnect between what the patient wants and what the provider is trained to do is significant, and we have to bridge that gap at some point. So one last thing I'll mention: I'm not anti-supplement. I recommend supplements to people. My stance is that they're just prescribed in a lot of situations when there isn't much evidence to support them, number one. And number two, I want to focus on long-term health outcomes. And I think one last thing I'll add, I think the disadvantage that a lot of practitioners have is just not enough time with people to explain these things. I've always been in business for myself, so I've always had the luxury of spending as much time as I wanted to with people. It's one of the appeals of going outside of the system for advice about health and education about health and that kind of thing. So, so back to what I said in the beginning, if you want to learn how to have your own business so you can do what you want, I recommend it highly. I don't think I would still be working if I was working for somebody else. My enthusiasm for it comes from being on my own and getting to decide what I want to do. So if you're interested in that, let me know. All right, that's it for today. I will put this information in next Monday's newsletter so you can see it in writing because it's a lot of stuff I just told you. As usual, pass this on to other people who you think might be interested in looking at it. And I will be back to you on Thursday with more news. Thank you so much for watching.